Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at finding or using Pythagorean theorem to come up with the length of missing sides of a right triangle. So this is a problem I'm taking from CPM's course 3, and this is section 10.1.2. Okay, so it says to find the length. Oh, and this is problem number 10-28. So find the length of the side labeled X. In each of the right triangles pictured below, identify each answer as a rational or irrational number. Show your work. So keep in mind, when we have a right triangle, right? And I'll put my little notes over here. If I have a right triangle, and the right triangle could be any orientation, just as long as you have a right angle, your two side lengths that create that right triangle, those are called legs, but I'm gonna label them A and B. So the length of this is A, the length of this is B. If and it's a right triangle, if that's the case, and then I'm gonna also label this one C, right? This is called the hypotenuse. Opposite of the 90 is hypotenuse. So if this is what we have for a right triangle, then what's true is if I square the lengths of the legs, A squared, that's square the length of this leg, square the length of this leg, B squared, it will always equal the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So that's the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared on any and all right triangles. So I'm going to use that then to find X, because what's true? Here we have the two legs, right? So if I square the two legs, so 5 squared and X squared, and then I add those two, the sum of the squares of legs will always equal the square of the hypotenuse. So I square that one. So just as on my math. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for X. 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25, plus X squared. So I'm going to solve this equation. 13 times 13 is 169. I still got to solve for X, so I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides. I'm getting my X alone. X squared equals 144. So how do I get X? I have X squared. How do I get X? I'm looking for the number that multiplies by itself, like the same number that multiplies twice to give you that number. You might be able to see it if you know your multiplication facts, or if not, there is the opposite of squared is square root. So what you would do is square root both sides of the equation to find that X. I'm looking for X, right? The opposite of squared is square root. So you could put in the calculator and square root 144, or like I said, if you already see it, you see that X times X, or in this case, 12 times 12 is 144. So that means X is 12. So, and because it's an exact number, right? A terminating decimal, there is no decimal places in this case. This answer would be a rational answer. It's not irrational, it's rational. And X equals 12. Okay, so we do the same thing here. So B, remember now, my legs are that one and that one. So the square, the sum of the squares, so 6 squared plus 3 squared, right? A squared plus B squared. The legs squared, 6 squared plus 3 squared equals X squared. So there's my equation. So now I've got to just simplify it and look for what X is. 6 squared is 36. 3 squared is 9. So X squared, those two add up to be 45 is equal to X squared. So again, what two numbers, what same number multiplies to itself to be 45? Well, in this case, there isn't an exact answer because 45 is not a perfect square. So what we would do then is we would want to take and find the square root, right? We'd square root both sides to determine what X is. So I would square root the 45. And let me do that. So square root 45, and I get approximately 6.7 is what I'm going to do. So we're going to this time use the squiggly instead of an equals, use the squiggly lines to say approximately, and it's 6.7. So, or if we're going to say exact, it would be the square root. We could leave our answer, the square root of 45, unless it asked us to come up with an approximate answer. So what do we have? Because there's not an exact answer, and this is just a decimal that I rounded, and really the decimal, if you look, the square root of 45, that decimal just goes on and on and on. It'll never repeat, never terminate. So that's what we call an irrational number. It's an irrational number. All right, last one, C. See if I got some room here. So it's, again, here's my two legs. There's the two legs. So it's x squared plus 15 squared equals 17 squared. Right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is x squared plus 225. 15 squared is 225. 17 squared is 289. If I subtract 225 from both sides, right, I'm looking to get my x squared alone. I get x squared is equal to 64. So again, what two numbers multiply to be 64? I see it. X equals 8. Or again, you could square root both sides. So x equals 8 on this one, and that is an exact answer. So it's rational for this one. It's a rational answer. All right, here we go.